I drop my overnight bag on Grandpa Arthur's doorstep, my hands shaking so badly I can barely press the doorbell. The folder of medical information I'd hastily compiled spills onto the concrete, insurance cards, and medication lists scattering in the autumn breeze. My lungs burn from running up the steps after abandoning my rental car in the driveway. Mom's voice still echoes in my head. "Willow, it's Dad. We think he's had a stroke. You need to get here now." The door swings open. My grandfather stands before me, wearing his favorite cardigan and holding a mug of coffee. His silver eyebrows rise in surprise. "Willow? What are you doing here?" My knees nearly buckle. "Grandpa, you're okay?" "Of course I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be?" I stumble past him into the foyer, heart hammering against my ribs. Mom called me about a stroke. I was in Denver. I canceled my presentation to the investment board. I got on the first flight. He frowns, setting his mug on the entryway table. "That's strange. I haven't spoken to your mother in 3 days." A cold suspicion trickles down my spine. I pull out my phone with trembling fingers and open Instagram. There it is, posted 2 hours ago. My mother, father, and brother Jackson on a beach. Margaritas raised in a toast. The location tag reads, Cabo San Lucas. I turn the screen toward Grandpa. His confused expression shifts to understanding as he studies the image. "They told me you were too busy to join them," he says quietly. "That you had important meetings all week." The betrayal punches me in the stomach. They lied to both of us. At 32, I've spent years working double shifts, waitressing through college and my MBA program while my parents paid every cent of my younger brother's education. The same brother who never held a job until our family handed him one at Reyes Retreats, the boutique hotel chain my grandfather built from nothing. Just 3 months ago, my parents had promised me leadership of the new Seattle branch, a position I'd earned through years of loyalty and proven business acumen. 2 weeks before the launch, they quietly canceled the plan, giving the position to Jackson instead. "He just has the right personality for hospitality," my father explained, as if my years in the business meant nothing. My hand stops shaking as anger replaces shock. I call my mother, putting the phone on speaker. She answers on the 5th ring, the sound of laughter and waves in the background. "I'm with Grandpa," I say, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "He's perfectly fine." A pause. "Oh, well, I must have misunderstood what your father said. These things happen, honey." "Misunderstood?" I pull up the family vacation photos again. "Is Cabo nice this time of year?" Another pause, longer this time. "You're overreacting again. We tried to include you, but you said you were busy with work." "That's interesting, since I never received an invitation." I look at Grandpa, whose jaw has tightened. "And you told Grandpa I was too busy to visit him." "Willow, really, these misunderstandings wouldn't happen if you stayed more connected with the family instead of always focusing on work." Grandpa gestures for the phone. I hand it to him. "Elena," he says, his voice surprisingly firm for a man they tried to convince me was at death's door. "This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a lie." He hangs up and hands the phone back to me. "They've been doing this for years, Willow, keeping us apart." I follow him into his study, where sunlight streams through tall windows. "What do you mean?" "They've been cutting me out of decisions despite the fact that I founded the company." He lowers himself into his leather chair. "Just like they've been cutting you out in favor of Jackson." My stomach tightens. "But you're still the majority shareholder. And, on paper." He opens a drawer and pulls out a folder. "But they've been making moves behind my back. And yours. And yours." The realization crashes over me like a wave. Every time I stayed late at the office, every business trip I took, every sacrifice I made to earn their respect, none of it mattered. They never intended to see me as their equal. I sink into the chair across from my grandfather, my only ally in a family that has never truly wanted me to succeed. "What are we going to do?" I ask. A small smile crosses his face. "Fight back." I follow Grandpa Arthur into his study, still trying to process the Cabo photos. The room smells of leather-bound books, and the faint trace of his aftershave. He walks to the far wall, his movements deliberate as he slides back a panel revealing a hidden wall safe. "I've been gathering evidence for months," he says, spinning the dial with practiced precision. "Never thought I'd need to use it against my own son." The safe swings open. He withdraws a thick manila folder stamped confidential in red block letters. These are copies of transactions, trust documents, and internal memos that Elena and Dean didn't think I had access to. His voice wavers slightly as he places the folder on his mahogany desk. "You better sit down for this, Willow." My stomach tightens as I flip open the folder. Bank statements. Trust withdrawal forms. Board meeting minutes. My vision blurs as I process what I'm seeing. This can't be right, I whisper, tracing a finger down a column of numbers. $2.1 million. My trust fund. Systematically drained. Arthur confirms, his jaw clenched. To fund Jackson's lifestyle. The Aspen condo. The yacht membership. The consulting fees that never produced any actual work. My legs give out and I sink into the leather chair. The room spins as I stare at a document detailing a $190,000 payment to a law firm specializing in traffic violations. Jackson's drunk driving accident last year. Arthur explains. The one that never happened. A pedestrian was injured. Your parents used your money to make it disappear. I push aside the nausea rising in my throat as I uncover a draft agreement to transfer ownership of Reyes Retreats entirely to Jackson upon Arthur's death, an additional $2.1 million inheritance they plan to steal from me. I need to call Diana, I say, pulling out my phone with trembling fingers. Arthur nods. Your cousin might be the only attorney we can trust right now. Diana picks up on the third ring. I put her on speaker and spread the documents across the desk where she can see them through the video call. Arthur stands beside me, his hand steady on my shoulder. These statements show systematic fraud, Diana says, her attorney voice clear and confident through the speaker. Look at the dates, they align perfectly with the board meetings where you were conveniently sent to inspect other properties. She points to a document partially visible on screen. That transfer to the Cayman account? That's not just family favoritism, Willow. It's fraud and misuse of fiduciary responsibility. Arthur pushes another folder toward the camera. What about these? Diana's sharp intake of breath is audible. These are papers for a competency hearing. They were trying to have you declared mentally incompetent, Arthur. Grandpa's face drains of color. He grips the edge of the desk, knuckles white. My own son. There's more. Diana continues, her voice hardening. Tax evasion, offshore accounts, falsified board minutes. She looks directly at me. They were going to take everything from both of you. The weight of this revelation crushes against my chest. My entire life, the double shifts to pay for college, the missed vacations to work holiday hours, the blind loyalty to a family business, all built on foundations of lies. What happens if they succeed? I ask, my mouth dry. You lose everything. Diana answers bluntly. Not just the $2.1 million they've already taken, but your position in the company, your inheritance, everything. I think about the New York position I turned down 3 months ago. Executive Finance Director at Harrison Hotels, a 6-figure salary, stock options. All rejected to stay with the family business. You'll face financial ruin, Arthur says quietly, while Jackson enjoys the fruits of my 50 years of labor. Diana's voice softens. Willow, if you fight this, they'll cut all ties. You understand that, right? This isn't just about money. You'll lose what remains of your family. I laugh bitterly. What family? The people who lied to me my entire life? Arthur sinks into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 76 years. There's something else you should know. He rubs his chest absently. My health isn't perfect. Early-stage heart issues. Nothing immediately life-threatening, but you need someone you can trust. I finish for him. He nods, pulling a folder from his desk drawer. These papers name you as my healthcare proxy and financial power of attorney. If you're willing. My hand doesn't shake as I take the pen he offers. I sign each line with deliberate strokes, a small victory amid the devastation. The weight of responsibility settles across my shoulders, not just for me, but for the man who built everything my parents are trying to steal. As I hold these signed papers, I wonder if I should confront my parents immediately or build my case silently. The thought of seeing their faces when I revealed what I knew was tempting, but patience might give me the advantage of surprise. Would you choose immediate confrontation or strategic patience when faced with such a profound betrayal? A week later, the ballroom of the Paramount Hotel glitters with champagne flutes and forced laughter. I stand alone near a potted palm, watching my parents beam at photographers as they announce Jackson as the new CEO of Reyes Retreats. My brother's practiced smile never wavers as he feeds the crowd rehearsed lines about innovative direction and fresh leadership. Willow, a former colleague approaches, then stops abruptly. Oh, I thought you'd left the company already. I force my face to remain neutral. Just restructuring my role. She glances toward my parents, then back at me. Well, good luck with whatever comes next. She walks away before I can respond. This scene repeats 5 times before I slip out the service entrance. My phone buzzes with a text from our marketing director canceling our meeting tomorrow, the 3rd cancellation this week. The following morning, a financial alert from my bank flashes across my screen. The property in Sedona, part of my inheritance, has been sold, without my knowledge or consent. The transaction lists my brother as the authorized agent. I call our family attorney but reach his voicemail. When I try the company's legal department, the receptionist puts me on hold, then returns to inform me my access has been temporarily suspended pending leadership transition. Later that afternoon, Jackson appears on the regional business report. The company needed saving from years of mismanagement, he says smoothly. Sometimes family loyalty means making difficult decisions. The statement lands like a physical blow. 10 years of 60-hour weeks, of canceled vacations and postponed relationships, all dismissed as mismanagement. Back at my apartment, I discover my company email suddenly requires a password I've never set. When I call IT, they explain the system change was authorized by leadership. In days to come, sleep becomes a luxury I can't afford. I lie awake, calculating losses, replaying conversations, searching for warnings I should have recognized. The apartment I once found peaceful now feels like a cage, its walls closing in with each passing night. During a conference call I managed to join anonymously, I hear a board member refer to me as the Reyes situation. My hands shake so badly I drop my coffee mug. It shatters against the floor as the call continues without my voice. My dining room transforms into a war room. Financial statements cover every surface. Legal references stack in towers beside my grandfather's original company documents. I create timelines of every suspicious decision, every unexplained transfer. The scattered pieces slowly form a pattern of calculated betrayal spanning years. The knock at my door comes at an unexpected hour, one Wednesday evening. I open it cautiously to find Margaret, our family housekeeper for 20 years, standing in the hallway. "Miss Willow," she whispers, pressing a small key into my palm. "Some things aren't right. Your grandfather taught me that silence makes us complicit." I recognize the key immediately. It opens my father's private office. The opportunity comes 3 nights later during a family dinner I attend only to maintain appearances. While my mother leads guests on a tour of their recent renovations, I slip away. The key turns smoothly in the lock of my father's study. Inside, I move efficiently through filing cabinets, photographing documents that confirm everything we suspected. Transfer authorizations bearing forged signatures, backdated board minutes, amendments to trust documents with questionable witnesses. 15 minutes later, the door swings open. My father stands in the doorway, face darkening as he registers what I'm doing. "What do you think you're doing in here?" His voice carries the same tone he used when I was 8, and colored on his desk calendar. I continue photographing a particularly damning memo, finding the truth you've been hiding from me my entire life. He steps forward, looming over me the way he always has. But for the first time, I don't shrink back. Instead, I stand taller. "Get out before I call security," he hisses, reaching for my arm. I hold up my phone, screen displaying the dozens of images I've already captured. I've already copied everything I need. His face transforms, the mask of paternal authority dropping to reveal naked fear. In that moment, the strangest feeling washes over me. I'm no longer afraid of his disapproval. The realization is so liberating I almost laugh. "You've always underestimated me," I say quietly. "That was your biggest mistake." Later that night, Diana works through the night organizing the evidence. Her apartment resembles a legal war room, documents spread across every surface as she drafts motions and prepares filings. "I don't want payment," she says when I mention compensation. "Consider this 20 years of repayment for how they treated my mother." Grandpa Arthur arrives with a weathered leather portfolio. "The original company formation documents," he explains. "Your parents thought these were destroyed in the office fire last year." Margaret calls with locations of additional files. "The garden shed behind the pool house," she whispers, "hidden under the flooring. I've watched them hide things there for years." These people, this unlikely alliance of the overlooked and underestimated, stand with me, not because we share blood, but because we share values. The contrast with my parents' manipulation, has never been clearer. In Diana's kitchen, we review the final strategy. A forgotten clause in the original company contract allows for ownership revocation in cases of proven fraud. There's something else, Diana says, sliding a folder across the table. The FBI has already been investigating Jackson's accident. The agent I spoke with believes there's evidence of bribery. The next morning, I walk through the glass doors of Reyes Retreat's headquarters. The receptionist's eyes widen at my appearance. I move past her toward the boardroom, where the quarterly meeting is underway. Behind me, 4 FBI agents follow in silent formation. For the first time in months, a smile touches my lips. I walk into the Reyes Retreat's boardroom, with my spine straight as a ruler. The polished mahogany table gleams under recessed lighting, reflecting the stunned faces of board members as FBI agents file in quietly behind me. My mother's champagne glass freezes midway to her lips. Jackson's smug smile falters. My father stands abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. "What's the meaning of this, Willow?" he demands. I place my leather portfolio on the table. I'm here to present evidence of serious financial misconduct within Reyes Retreats. The room falls silent. I remove a stack of documents from my portfolio, passing copies to each board member with steady hands. Gone is the trembling daughter desperate for approval. In her place stands a woman with irrefutable proof. These financial statements show systematic fraud dating back 5 years. I say, my voice calm despite my racing heart. Page 3 details how $2.1 million of my trust was diverted to unauthorized accounts. Page 7 shows company funds used to cover up Jackson's drunk driving incident last year. Board member Patricia Morton adjusts her glasses, her eyes widening as she reviews the numbers. This is absurd. My father interrupts, his face reddening. These documents are clearly fabricated. I continue as if he hadn't spoken. Arthur's original contract contains a specific clause regarding ethical conduct. I point to the highlighted section. It states clearly, if evidence of fraud or unethical conduct emerges, ownership may be revoked. Board Chairman Richard Donovan leans forward, his bushy eyebrows drawing together. These allegations are extremely serious, Dean. They're also completely true, I add. I formally request a vote to remove my parents and brother from company leadership, effective immediately. These are... The CFO slides his chair away from my father, a subtle but unmistakable distancing. 2 other board members exchange glances, then close their folders simultaneously. Jackson jumps to his feet, knocking over his water glass. This is ridiculous. She's fabricated everything out of jealousy, because Dad chose me to lead the company. A man in a dark suit steps forward from the line of FBI agents. Mr. Reyes, I'm Special Agent Becker. We have independent evidence regarding the incident in Aspen last winter, including documentation of the $190,000 payment to the victim's family, using company funds. Jackson's face drains of color. My mother stands, smoothing her silk blouse with trembling fingers. This is a family matter that should be handled privately. I move to adjourn this meeting immediately. Chairman Donovan clears his throat. Elena, using company funds for personal matters is precisely why we're having this discussion. Board member Martin Wright, who has golfed with my father for 20 years, turns to him with newfound suspicion. Dean, what about that expansion property in Sedona? Was that purchase properly authorized? My father doesn't answer, sweat beading along his hairline. When the board chairman asks if I want my parents arrested or simply removed from the company, I hesitate. Would justice be better served by public consequences, or by simply taking back what was mine while preserving what remained of the family name? The boardroom door opens. Grandpa Arthur enters slowly, leaning on his cane. His silver hair catches the light, and despite his frail appearance, his presence fills the room. Conversations cease instantly. I founded this company 50 years ago, he says, his voice stronger than his body suggests. I built it on integrity, not deceit. Diana follows him in, carrying a leather document case. Her attorney's confidence radiates as she approaches the table. I've prepared legal documentation transferring Arthur's controlling shares to Willow Reyes, she announces, placing the papers before the chairman. These transfers are executed and legally binding as of this morning. Margaret steps forward from where she'd been waiting by the door. The sight of our family housekeeper in the boardroom causes my mother's jaw to drop. I've witnessed documents being destroyed in the Reyes home. Margaret states firmly, Financial papers, contracts, and correspondence that Mr. Dean Reyes specifically instructed me to burn. I kept records of dates and descriptions. The chairman reviews the transfer documents, then looks up at my grandfather. Arthur, are you certain about this decision? More certain than I've been about anything in years, Grandpa replies. The vote is swift and unanimous. My parents and Jackson are removed from all company positions, effective immediately. I stand at the head of the table, the position my father occupied just minutes ago. The weight of the moment settles on my shoulders, not as a burden but as a mantle I was born to wear. Across the room, Jackson's confident smile completely dissolves as comprehension dawns. His eyes dart between the FBI agents and the board members, searching for an ally and finding none. My mother's carefully applied makeup runs as tears stream down her face. This will destroy the company, she whispers. But the board members who have seen the evidence remain unmoved by her performance. My father pushes back his chair and stands. This meeting is over. We'll be contesting these ridiculous allegations. He turns toward the door, but finds 2 FBI agents blocking his path. Dean Reyes, we have some questions regarding tax evasion and misappropriation of funds, Agent Becker says. I gather my documents and address the room. I'm calling an emergency company-wide meeting for tomorrow morning at 9. Every employee deserves to know what's happening and that their jobs are secure. I meet my father's gaze directly. Some things are about to change around here. The text on my phone screen is simple but loaded with desperation. We need to talk before this goes any further. Dad's office. 7 a.m. I delete my mother's message without responding, but I'll be there, not because they deserve it, but because I want to see their faces. At precisely 7, I stride into my father's office. The space feels different now, smaller somehow. My parents and Jackson look up as I enter. Dad sits unnaturally straight behind his desk, his usual commanding posture now appearing forced. Mom's eyes are red-rimmed, tissues clutched in her hand. Jackson paces by the window, stopping mid-stride when he sees me. Willow, please sit down, my father says, his voice uncharacteristically soft. We want to explain everything. I remain standing. I've heard enough explanations for a lifetime. You're overreacting, Mom interjects, dabbing at her eyes. We've always had your best interests at heart. By stealing my inheritance? By trying to have Grandpa declared incompetent? Dad spreads his hands in a placating gesture. Look, we can reach a compromise. We'll make a public apology. You can have shared control of the Seattle properties. In return, you drop the most serious charges. Think about what you're doing, Mom adds, her voice hardening despite her tear-stained face. The scandal will destroy everything your grandfather built. When that doesn't move me, she shifts strategies. Your behavior shows you're unfit to lead. Perhaps we should revisit Arthur's competency evaluation. He clearly wasn't thinking clearly when he transferred those shares. The old Willow would have flinched at this threat. Today, I smile. I've already met with the major investors, I say, pulling a folder from my briefcase. They're fully aware of the situation and support my leadership. I lay out statements from hotel staff across the table. These are testimonials about improved working conditions since I took operational control last week. Turns out people work harder when they're not terrified of being fired for speaking up. My father reaches for the papers, but I pull them back. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to inform. I stand taller, no longer diminished by their presence. For 32 years, you've undermined me while pretending to support me. You promised me the Seattle branch, then gave it to Jackson. You helped him through college while I worked double shifts. You stole my inheritance while telling me I wasn't ready for responsibility. My voice remains steady as I deliver the final blow. I don't need your approval anymore. I never actually had it. And Jackson pushes away from the window. This is ridiculous. You can't. Your choices are simple, I continue, ignoring him. Face full charges for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, or surrender all claims to the business and repay what you've taken. I check my watch. You have until the company meeting at 9 to decide. The grand atrium of Reyes Retreats headquarters buzzes with nervous energy as employees fill the space. Sunlight streams through the glass ceiling, illuminating the gathered crowd. I spot my parents and Jackson entering through a side door, their security badges temporarily reactivated for this meeting only. I take the stage, adjusting the microphone. Thank you all for coming today. I'm Willow Reyes, And as of yesterday, I've assumed control of Reyes Retreats following evidence of serious financial improprieties by previous management. A murmur ripples through the crowd. I catch my father's scowl from the corner of my eye. My first action as CEO is to announce a complete restructuring of our company. I pause, meeting the eyes of longtime employees who'd previously looked through me. Effective immediately, we're introducing profit sharing for all employees who have been with us for more than 1 year. The ripple becomes a wave of surprised whispers. Additionally, I'd like to recognize someone whose loyalty and integrity have been instrumental in preserving what's best about this company. I gesture toward the back of the room. Margaret Franklin, would you please join me? Margaret walks forward, her practical shoes clicking against the marble floor. She's worked for my family since before I was born, always in the background, always watching. Margaret is being promoted to executive housekeeper with oversight of all Reyes Retreat properties. Her first task will be to implement a living wage for all housekeeping staff. Applause erupts as I shake Margaret's hand. My mother's face contorts with shock. Margaret was just the help in her eyes. I'm also establishing the Arthur Vernon Scholarship Fund for the children of our employees. Education changed my life, and it should be accessible to everyone in our Reyes family, our real family. As I speak, maintenance workers wheel a cart toward the lobby wall where my parents' portraits have hung for 15 years. They carefully remove the formal oil paintings, replacing them with a photograph of Grandpa Arthur and me at last year's Christmas party, both of us laughing at some forgotten joke. When the meeting ends, employees who once hurried past me in hallways now approach with congratulations and ideas for improvements. My parents and Jackson stand frozen near the exit, their badges already deactivated, effectively locked out of the empire they thought they controlled. Later that afternoon, whispers spread through the office about the settlement my parents signed. The rumors suggest they'll face substantial financial penalties, with the possibility of jail time still looming if they violate the terms. Later that afternoon, I'm reviewing proposals for the Seattle property when my assistant knocks. Your brother is here. He insists on seeing you. I nod, curious despite myself. When Jackson enters my office, he's alone, no parents backing him, no swagger in his step. For the first time since we were children, he looks directly at me, instead of through me. I didn't know, he says quietly, his voice unfamiliar without its usual arrogance. About all of it, I swear. I set down my pen and wait, wondering what happens next to a family shattered by its own lies. A year later, I adjust the presentation slides on my tablet, double-checking the quarterly profits before the board meeting begins. A year since taking control, and Reyes Retreats' profits have climbed 22%. Not bad for the daughter they never thought would lead. The boardroom door swings open. As executives file in, the same people who once looked through me now greet me by name, their handshakes firm, their eye contact steady. Last month, 3 major hotel publications requested interviews. 6 months ago, these industry leaders barely acknowledged my existence. Let's begin, I announce, my voice carrying easily across the room, without the hesitation that once plagued it. After the meeting, I walk through our flagship property, stopping to chat with Carmen about her son's college applications. The scholarship committee meets next week. Make sure his paperwork is in. Thank you, Miss Reyes. Under your father, I wouldn't have even mentioned my children. I've expanded the Arthur Vernon Scholarship Fund to help 38 employees' children this year. When I greet the housekeeping staff by name, Maria, Thomas, Lena, their surprised smiles remind me how my parents treated them as invisible machinery. Later that evening, the industry's annual gala sparkles with the same crystal chandeliers and champagne fountains as last year. But everything else has changed. I smooth my emerald gown, no more blending into backgrounds with muted blues and grays. This year's Hotelier of the Year has achieved remarkable growth while implementing revolutionary employee benefit programs. The announcer's voice booms. When they call my name, applause thunders through the ballroom. Exactly 1 year ago, in this very room, they announced Jackson as CEO. Now I stand at the same podium, the weight of the Crystal Award solid in my hands. Success isn't about what you own, I say into the microphone, the tremor gone from my voice. It's about the legacy of integrity you build. This award belongs to every employee who trusted me with their livelihoods. I find Grandpa Arthur in the audience, his eyes bright with unshed tears. My grandfather taught me that true leadership is earned through service, not inherited through bloodlines. It's a lesson I carry every day. 2 weeks later, Arthur raises his glass across the table at Diana's lakeside home. Margaret sits beside him, her normally starched posture relaxed in retirement. The candlelight catches the silver in Arthur's hair as we celebrate 1 year since taking control. To the family we choose, rather than the family we're born into. Diana proposes. To integrity restored, Margaret adds, her voice warm with satisfaction. Arthur watches me with pride as I outline plans for our Miami expansion. You've exceeded every expectation, Willow, not just as a businesswoman but as a leader. The autumn sun slants through my office window the following Monday as I review blueprints for our newest concept, boutique hotels built around employee well-being centers. Properties where staff needs receive the same careful attention as guest amenities. My assistant knocks softly. This came for you by courier. She hands me a cream-colored envelope. Inside, a letter from Jackson. The restaurant venture he started in Seattle's Second Table employs people needing second chances. Former inmates, recovering addicts, domestic violence survivors. I learned from watching you rebuild what our parents tried to destroy, he writes. Maybe someday we could talk again? I place the letter beside the photograph I keep on my desk. Grandpa Arthur at 25, standing before his first hotel, holding the business plan written in his careful script. Next to it sits my own vision for Reyes Retreats' future, one built on fairness and respect rather than favoritism and deceit. As I read my brother's letter asking if we might someday speak again, I wonder about the delicate balance between forgiveness and self-protection. Can family bonds be rebuilt after such betrayal? Or is it wiser to cherish what was good, while accepting that some relationships are better left in the past? What would you do?